When I think about cultural relevance, I start with the problem of engagement. Instead of thinking about how do we make text more culturally relevant, I think the question we want to ask is why aren't students engaged and how can we engage them? And then we can begin to come up with, I think, better strategies for applying cultural relevance that really draw students in and all students. And I think that's really important that we don't segment students out, but that everyone feels a part of the classroom, the conversation. They feel that their strengths and interests are valued and that they're contributors. So when you think about um, the teaching of culturally relevant text, one of the questions we have to ask is, do students see themselves in the text that we're reading? So of course we want text to be more integrated in terms of female authors and authors of color and regional authors. We also want text to be more integrated in terms of the genres. So in addition to the novels and the plays and the poems, we want contemporary genres like film, like music, like the internet. But we also want to think about the questions that we're asking of those texts, right? Do the questions draw students in, right? Do they allow them to engage these texts with their own unique perspectives? What we don't want to have happen is students feel like, okay, well, this particular text is culturally relevant for that 30% of the students, but not for me, right? So how do we bring all students in and help them to understand that many people bring unique ideas about the human condition to the writing of literature, and those who share your experiences or your beliefs, however that's defined, are included in this world of ideas. But at the same time, you can engage any text, right? So this isn't about taking Shakespeare out of the curriculum or taking Hemingway or Virginia Woolf out of the curriculum. It's like, how do we engage Shakespeare in a way that truly brings young people into the text, right? So I think one of the fears is A, we have to get rid of the whole canon, or B, in our tremendously diverse classrooms, we're just going to appeal to one segment and then shut off the other segments while we're doing that. So I think you want to dispel that because we want to engage all students simultaneously. So a real question would be, how do we engage young people around Taming of the Shrew, right? How do we connect this to their ideas, their interests, right? How do we ask questions that are really relevant to them? At the same time, how do we bring other voices into the conversation in 11th grade English or 6th grade English, right? How do we make sure that we're representing as much as we can the larger world of ideas? All that being said, I do believe that the most important component of culturally relevant pedagogy is not what students read, but what they produce. We don't want to presume to know a student's culture by looking at them or listening to them or asking them what country their parents come from, right? Culture means all sorts of things. It's dynamic. It could be the sport that I play. It could be my faith community. It could be the town that I'm from. And so in all these different ways, when you put them together, what you have is each student represents culture uniquely. And we need to get to know them uniquely, right? And to pull them in. And the best way to do that is to allow plenty of space in our lessons and our units for students to share their multiple perspectives, to ask them constantly, what do you think? What interests you? What would you do? To allow them to produce in multiple voices. So we definitely want them to perfect an academic voice and demonstrate academic vocabulary, but occasionally you should be writing in a voice to your peers or to your parents or to others in the community. Occasionally, in addition to the essay, you might write an op-ed, or you might write a poem, or you might write a short story. You might produce a research report, and it might be multimodal. Right? It might be partly documentary and part, written text. That pulls students in, right? That there's not a student in our classroom who doesn't deserve relevant pedagogy that appeals to their unique cultural accumulation. Right? At the same time, we want students to be students of the world, right? And to see others as being dynamic and powerful as well. When that happens, we maximize students' learning about themselves and about others. We maximize their interest in literature and literary study and in writing. We maximize, hopefully, their identity as members of communities that have a lot to offer to the human equation. And most importantly, we optimize their engagement. They're leaned in and they're all in instruction because they know that they matter and what they do will largely be the result of who they are and what their interests are.